What's going on, my dudes? Chensley11 here, and welcome back to another episode in the A to Z series, where we are going through every single champion in League of Legends and giving you a basic or beginner's guide on each of them. In today's episode, we're going to be showing you how to play Lulu Support for beginners. So we're going to be going through Lulu's build, her runes, and most importantly, what all of her abilities do, and some general tips and tricks about how to play her in lane, what to look out for, and what she's good at and what she's weak at. So Lulu is one of the enchanter supports. She's quite fun to play once you get the hang of her, but at the start of like learning her, she can be a little bit frustrating or squishy. Again, with all these enchanter supports, positioning is king, right? So you need to make sure you're with your ADC, you're peeling them, which Lulu is very good at, and buffing them, which Lulu is obviously very good at. So she works well into like hyper scaling late game ADCs. Kog'Maw is the best example. Although Jinx is also very good because we can give her attack speed and we can peel her so she can go on and snowball team fights. So I do hope you enjoy the video, and if you do, hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot, and also hit the subscribe button if you want guides from all the other champions of League of Legends as we go through them. So again, we're playing with the Jinx today. We got a Zac jungle, so got a good amount of CC, so we should be able to lock down the enemy laners. These games obviously are pre-recorded. So this is a bit of a quick game. Hope you enjoy. We got a singed proxying. So again, level 1, always just leash your jungler. And what that means is you just help him take out the buff if you're very, very new to the game. And then I'll quickly mention the starting item. You want to take obviously your Spell Thief's Edge. We'll go through the items in more detail in a moment. But that is for all supports, need like that support item to get their gold income going. And then so what we're going to do to start off with is we're going to go through the runes. So for Lulu, and then just a quick aside, just real quick before we get into the runes, I just want to quickly mention, just with laning, the best thing to do if you can is to try and get to level 2 first if you want to be aggressive, and then try and pressure. And what I will say with Lulu is her auto attack and those extra bolts that come off Pix, which is the fairy that's following us, is quite important, right? So you can see how much damage we're doing, and also it's important to poke for your Spell Thief's Edge to proc it, because it's like a quest built in, and that's how you get gold, and then eventually upgrade it into an item and also wards. So you need to make sure you're proactively poking with your abilities, your Q, and your auto attacks mainly early, so you can obviously put pressure on the laners and also work towards your quest. So let's get into the runes while we watch the gameplay. And as I say with these videos, the gameplay is not super important, but it's just something to watch in the background, and we'll use it as a guide or like a source of talking points, if that makes sense. So the runes. You want to get Summonary as your main keystone. Obvious reasons, it's good for shielding, enchanter supports. It also obviously increases the damage output if you're hitting people with auto attacks and abilities, your E, for example. Mana flow ban, you're going to be using a lot of mana, so you know you're casting a lot of abilities, so it makes sense. Transcendence, you get CDR, which is great. Scorch, as I said, we're doing a lot of poking, so Scorch is going to be good. Just a bit of extra damage on your abilities, making sure to support your ADC whenever you can. So unfortunately, the support got a little bit poked there. So you want to try and have a mixture of trying to poke, but also when you're playing Lulu specifically, making sure to hit them with your shields, your E's. And again, we'll go through all the abilities in more detail in a moment. So yeah, Scorch, then you want to go Biscuit Delivery is fantastic. That Mana Sustain, bit of Health Sustain is fantastic. And Cosmic Insight, very, very good runes. I would have thrown them up on the screen as well. These are ideal runes, and I would highly recommend to pick these up if you're just starting Lulu. You can make subtle adjustments, but they will be very good for you guys if you're starting to play Lulu. So next we're going to quickly go through the skill order. So level 1, you want to take Q. Level 1, level 1, you want to take E. Your shield is much more important than your Q level 1. You can argue you want to do some poking level 1, but definitely the E level 1 is more important than the shield and the damage source. The Q for the poke, level 2, W, level 3, and then you want to max your E first. And what I mean by max is take a point into your E whenever you can. And then next, you want to max your W, and then third, you want to max your Q. And then you want to take a point in your ultimate whenever you can. So you can see here, when we hit level 4, we take a second point to E, and we always take E whenever we can. Beautiful. So let's quickly go through the build. And again, I'll throw these up on the screen. So for summoner spells, you take Ignite, always take flash, in my opinion, in every champion. There are subtle examples or certain examples where you wouldn't take flash on specific champions, but for Lulu, always take flash and ignite. You can get exhaust depending on the matchup, but I like ignite. I like to be lane dominant, so I take ignite. And I also like it for, just in case they have a high healing threat. Late game, you can just put the ignite on them and it cuts their healing. If you didn't know that, that's what also ignite does. Obviously, as I said, you want to start Spell Thief's Edge, 2 potions. And then you want to try and rush a Shirelia's Battle Song, which will help with healing your ADC and also closing the gap to champions that you're trying to kill. Basically, it has an active that you use. It gives everyone around you a boost of movement speed. Next, you want to get your Chemtech Purifier, and then you can get Ardent Sensor and a Staff of Flowing Water. So Jax comes in for a gank. We're making sure not to steal the kill, which we end up doing, unfortunately. So when you're playing, especially a champion like Lulu, you don't really want to get the kills, simply because you need to... Your job isn't to do damage, it's to protect others, right? So you don't really need that as much gold as, say, the carries would, right? Even the Zac, who's a tank or a CC bot, would rather the gold than the Lulu. But, you know, it isn't the end of the world. We're still very far ahead in this game already, which is fantastic. So if you put enough pressure on their enemy laners, you may not get any kills, but what will happen is your ADC maybe will get plates because we force them out of lane, or they'll generate ACS lead, which is also just as good as kills. All right, so... and for boots, I didn't quickly mention, you want to go the Ionian Boots of Lucidity. CDR is very, very, very good. And then if you keep poking, you'll unlock your Shard of True Ice, which forms from your Spell Thief's Edge, which you take level 1. So that is all the runes and the build. These builds come from like the most common builds in high elo, or like what the professionals are taking. So the builds are quite good. You can see other builds that will work just as well, or, you know, work well, but the build and runes I've provided are good enough, especially more than good enough for if you're just starting out. So let's get into Lulu's abilities. And we're going to start with her passive, which is called Pix Fairy Companion. So as you can see, Lulu has like a fairy that's following her. It's called Pix. And it follows her around and fires bolts towards Lulu's targets whenever she uses auto attacks on here. So you can see when we auto attack, 3 like bolts go flying after the target. And they do on-hit magic damage. Okay, so it really helps with poking. Also, you can move Pix around, and we'll get to that in a moment when we go through other abilities. But basically, that's the passive, right? So Lulu has a companion that helps her out. So now I would say like being able to always know where Pix is important. But if you're just starting out, just using your abilities when you see fit will get you through the game, right? Later on, when you try to get really good at Lulu, you want to try and remember where Pix is, right? Because if you put it on an ally, it adjusts where your Q bolts come out, and we'll go through that in a moment. So you kind of need to know where they are. You can see here, we shielded the Jinx, and then the Fairy, or Pix, went onto Jinx there, and then it comes back to me after a certain amount of time, or if we leave the range, the tether range. Okay, so that's the passive. It's quite simple. It just amps the person's damage, and also if you put it on them, and it also gives yourself that on-hit damage on the auto attacks. So Zac coming in for another gank here, gets Lux's flash, pulls the Jinx in, so we're just making sure to shield everyone, using our W to speed up the Jinx, not to take any more kills because we're already taking one for ourselves. So next we're going to go through the Q. So the Q is called Glitter Lance. So it's an active, so Lulu and Pix fire magic bolts towards the target. Fantastic that we pick the Kane off and get the dragon. Perfect. So it fires magic bolts that obviously do magic damage towards a target location, and it slows the target down for 80% for 2 seconds. So the Q is a great source of poke in the lane, and it's also fantastic for the slow. All right, so don't underestimate that slow for helping your team catch up to a target. So it's very good to try and hit people with your Q. And also, if you move your Pix to an ally, the Q will come out of Pix from there, right? So if I Q now, it'll see how there was a bolt that came from Jinx there. So that's why I mean it's also important to remember where your Pix is, so because it affects your Q, your shot where your Q comes out, right? So as I said, it does So you shoot 2 bolts, one from Lulu herself, one from Pix. If you shoot it when Pix is on you, 2 bolts will come out, and you aim at the same location. If it's on an ally, they'll come out from where the ally is standing. So you can actually hit someone with a Q, even though you're not in range, but because they're in range. So if you're healing a frontline tank, you can use your Q off them to slow down their target, so to help the chase potential. So let's go through the W, which is called Whimsy. So Whimsy can be cast on an ally or an enemy. So that's just like the E as well, right? So this is what makes Lulu not the greatest champion for beginners, because there's a little bit of decision making, right? Because you can use your abilities in different ways. So the W, if you cast it on an enemy, it sends like a spell out, and that when it arrives, it polymorphs them, turns them into like a critter, like a little animal. So you can see here, I'm trying to bait so my team can come in, the Jax rather, who's waiting in a bush. But unfortunately we die, but that's okay because our team's going to clean up. So if we can get our team ahead, that's more than good enough. Beautiful, our team picks up 2 kills. So now what this is good for is for peeling assassins off your ADC, because if peeling your ADC with an assassin. So an assassin's coming into your ADC, you whimsy them, you turn them into like a little squirrel or something, and they just can't really do anything. They're like a little tiny squirrel on the map for a few seconds, right? And it disables them, it disarms them, right? So that's great for peeling your team, right? If there's someone trying to kill your backline, you can peel them, make sure that they don't do damage. It's also pretty fun to turn people into little squirrels. So that's one aspect of the Whimsy. The second aspect, and I will have examples of all the abilities in the top left as always, but the second half of Whimsy is a self-cast or an ally cast. So you can cast it on an ally champion or yourself to grant them bonus attack speed and movement speed. So if we're chasing someone or we're just doing damage, and when I say we, I'm talking about the ADC, because you should be with the ADC at all times, or most of the time. If we're trying to kill someone, you Whimsy your ally or your ADC to increase their movement speed, which is perfect with Jinx because she works well with attack speed. That's why it works well with the on-hit ADCs, right? Like you like your Cogmore, because we buff his attack speed so you can apply more on-hit effects. But we buff her attack speed so she can do more damage. However, if someone's diving her, we can peel by whimsying the enemy, right? So it's a little bit of decision making. Most of the time you want to be Wing your ally, or you can like W like someone who's trying to chase. You can W your assassin so they can get onto their backline quicker with the movement speed. So a little bit of decision making with the Whimsy. Fantastic ability. I really enjoy turning people into squirrels personally, but make sure you use it on your ally when you're trying to increase your damage output. So next, the main ability for Lulu is Help Picks, which is her E. So Lulu can cast Help Picks again on an ally or an enemy. So if you cast it on an enemy, Picks goes towards the enemy and does magic damage to them and reveals them for 4 seconds, right? So I wouldn't recommend using the E like that very often. Early laning phase you can. I think there's a play in this game where I flash E to finish someone off, and you'll see it. Just for that quick burst of damage. But most of the time you want to be using your E on an ally, which sends Picks to the ally for 6 seconds, granting them a shield on arrival. So mainly for the shield because you're trying to protect your ADC. So right now I should be going over there to shield, which I did, and then absorb some of that damage from Jin's auto attack, but not. I missed out on most of that damage. So if yours there to E, it's fantastic. So here you can W the Jax to keep him locked on. Could make an argument to polymorph to Lux to slow her down. Either way worked. But then back to the E as we get another kill there. Nice. Diving. This jungler's making sure we absolutely stop this lane, get the Jinx nice and far ahead. So it shields the ally when it arrives, and obviously Pix is sitting on their shoulder. So you remember that's where your Q comes out and your auto attacks. The auto attacks buff come out from them, right? So if they auto attack, then Pix fires the bolts from them, right? So it's fantastic. So mainly want to be using your E to shield allies. That's its main purpose. So I highly recommend doing that. Now, finally, we're going to go through the ultimate, which is called Wild Growth. So Lulu enlarges the target ally or herself for 7 seconds, knocking all enemies up around and granting bonus health, right? So you get a lot of health, they get really big, and they slow enemies around them. So this is fantastic to use on 3 different situations. The first situation is if the tank or the diver is going in, and I like to just use it on them to knock everyone up, kind of like a Malphite ult. Number 2, you can use it on someone who's really low health and you just want to save their life. Or 3, you want to use it on your ADC, like to peel them. Again, assassins coming in, they're about to kill your ADC, you ultimate them, you knock the assassin up, you make them big, you increase their health, right? So you save them. So a lot of different examples when to use your ultimate. So there you go. So I used the Akali to get the knockup. Probably wasn't the best use of ultimate, but that's the ultimate there. It makes her massive, gives her more health. And then Jinx's ultimate unfortunately gets blocked. So there's the flash E I remember doing just to steal the kill there. And then we can help our team peel. So that's basically all the abilities, guys. The enemy team's going to surrender nice and early. So a very quick game. Our Jinx was starting to get really fed. Pretty sure our other lanes won as well. So this game would end quite soon. But anyway, guys, quick overview of all of Lulu's abilities, the runes, and the build. If you have any questions whatsoever, please leave them in the comment section down below. I always reply to all the comments. If you have any questions about the build or the runes, they are from like Mobalytics, which is a very reliable source. I highly recommend using that site. If you're very new to the game, it'll just help out a lot. So you don't have to focus on build and runes. You can just focus on the game. And if you did enjoy, make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps the channel out a lot. Next, I think we have Lux, so another support game, completely different style of play. We're talking about trying to get as much damage out as we can, and it's okay to take kills when you're playing like a Lux champion. But for Lulu, let's protect the ADC, let's peel, and let's do damage through them. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching. And remember, at the end of the day, it is nighttime. Take it easy.